Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome to our friends around the world. This is USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and we are thrilled to have you here today for our show, The United Kingdom News and Culture. Of course, if you've joined us before, you know that I'm not alone. And guess what? You're not alone either. So let's have our panel join us right away and find out what's happening. It's DIANN, FLOYD, BOEHM. Welcome.
Great to see you, Dr. JACALYN.
Nice to see you as well. And let's welcome Helena Chard. Hello.
Hi, lovely to see you both. Looking lovely.
Lovely to see you too. Thank you. And Mr. Simon MacDonald, hello.
Hello again. It's nice to be back home, shall we say. My apologies for last week's absence.
Well, we missed you, but we're glad you're here now. And also Mr. Ian Pelham-Turner. Hello.
Good afternoon. Well, it's sunny in London. I gather it's sunny in Scotland. And as you were just showing us out of your window just before we came on air, it's sunny in America as well. So it's a sunny day.
It is a sunny day. I say here, though, that the air quality, I think, is 176, which is not healthy at all because of the wildfires in Canada. And so we've been told to stay in. So,
oh, wow.
I know it is kind of smoggy out.
Yeah.
And that's in Canada. Wow.
I know. Isn't that amazing? Yesterday it was the air quality was 140 something, and today it's 176. So it's gotten a lot worse.
Gosh.
But the air is clean right here in this show. So
yay!
Yay! Hey, I think we're show 71, aren't we?
yes, we are.
Wow.
Episode 71. That's amazing.
Woo!
Wow.
That's brilliant.
And if you add in the episodes that we did on Celebrate Great Britain Royally Rich, I think that was, I don't know, 50 or 60. So
we're really, we're doing well. Congratulations, team.
Yay, congratulations, team.
We're becoming old hands at this then.
Well, I was trying to figure out how much experience all of us have collectively when it comes to broadcasting. So I know, Ian, you're 54 years.
No, I'm 57.
57. You don't look a day over 30. Okay, 57.
I know, but you know, when I take this filter off.
You don't have any filters. Come on.
How
about you, Simon? How many years do you have as a TV presenter?
Far too many. I think we're knocking on 40 now. Because I did a lot of the morning television shows, including the controversial one in the UK just now this morning program, and cut my teeth on those ones, and then life went downhill after that perfectly.
But so that's almost 100 just for the two of you. How about you, Helena?
So for me, actually being on this side of the camera, probably approximately 20. But I worked in casting, so obviously I was putting people on screen. So I don't know whether that counts for.
We'll count it.
Yeah, for about 10 years. So maybe I can do a cheeky 30 years.
Okay. Fantastic. How about you, DIANN?
I'm a novice compared to all of you guys. If I was to count like being guests and everything on different shows, that would give me about 5 years. But my real broadcasting, live streaming all began with you, Dr. JACALYN, with Rapping with Dr. JACALYN.
Oh,
So that's about what, 2 years, Diane? 3 years?
I think at least 3.
3 years. And so
That's
that would be the
great.
same for me. But I have to say, I think I have just under 3,500 shows. So
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah.
thank you. Well, congratulations to all of you and Faith that
We're-
brought
we're
us
not-
together.
We're not that far behind because I think Helena and I, we've done over 3,000 shows.
Wow.
I think we're
Yeah.
we're probably very close to your numbers as well, but that's taken us close on 12, 14 years, I think,
Mm.
to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I think it probably means I need to get a life. I don't know.
That's it, definitely. Need to get out a bit more. I have absolutely no idea how many shows I've done at all. I mean, I never even bothered to start counting. Maybe I should have. I'd give myself a fright. That would give me even more grey hair than I've got now as it is.
Simon, how did you start off as a TV presenter?
Just by default, I think. I just had a food business, and I was doing a lot of shows down in London, and got invited on to numerous other shows, and then LBC, the radio station, they had me on a very regular basis to the point where I was sort of co-hosting, and so it went on. So yeah, this has just evolved. You know, I got here by default. I think that's the story of my life.
Default, not true.
I love it. How about Helena or Ian? What was your first memory of when you were a TV presenter?
Gosh.
I'm trying to think. That's a very hard question because we've done so much, but I'm trying to think, when did we first start? We must have started around William and Kate's wedding. Did we start then, or did we work? Do you know what? It seems like I've been
together.
Helena forever, but I actually can't remember when we first started. I have to sort of say, I know my first main show was CNN, but and I remember you were with me that night. And then we went to NBC, but you know, I can't remember when we first started doing shows together. Isn't that strange? It's
all blurred.
Wow.
Blurred.
All right, let's go over to Helena. Maybe she remembers this incredible, fateful day.
Do you know, I can't. I mean, a lot of my previous work within was royal photography, so that was the majority basis, and then from there, it sort of went hand in hand because people want to know stories and want to know little idiosyncrasies. Prior to that, I worked with lookalikes, and strangely enough, people were if they couldn't see the royal family, they were very interested in seeing lookalikes of the royal family. So I remember doing a show, I think it was for Canada, and it was to do with Kate Middleton lookalikes at the time. And these were Kate Middletons sort of all around the world. And it's amazing. It's really quite extraordinary, actually, the power of lookalikes, because people just, one, you can use them in productions, so like the commercials, idents, things like that, but also at events. You'd think, goodness me, why would people want to see lookalikes? But people love it. They think it's really great fun, photo opportunities, presenting awards, because, you know, people can't always meet the real royals, and also using lookalikes as decoys as well. So you get to meet and speak to various people in high places. And I think it sort of trickled along, and then working with Ian in photography, and then it sort of all took off. But at date wise, I can't pinpoint, but it was all, yeah, it's just been a big old whoosh, which I think is great, actually.
I was just thinking it might have been with My Channel. Do you remember the My Channel? It was the Sky Channel, and we did 3 shows a week. We started arguing on shows about royal family because we never argued. Ho ho. We never argued about with the royal family. And the director said afterwards, they said, fabulous, just can you come on 3 times a week and argue about the royal family, which we duly did.
So you've been arguing for decades then, is that correct?
Well, it does feel like it, but I don't think it's quite been as long as those matters.
Oh my goodness.
No, I one of my earlier ones did a series of 6 food and wine programs in Portugal as well, and I mean we were over there for about 8 or 9 weeks filming these 6 programs, and I think it's probably been the funniest and the most hilarious time of my life. Got thoroughly sunburned. We got smashed out of our minds just about every day's filming, because my co-presenter Charles Metcalf, who's Master of Wines, he was coming up with extraordinary wines, and of course we had to taste them all. We had to sample them all, and some of them were exceedingly good, and so it made the actual filming, when it came to the food part, really quite interesting indeed. But it was all recorded, of course, and I find that the recording, when you do shows and it's recorded, there's an awful lot of waiting around and hanging around and so on. So I much prefer something like this, where it's live, you don't know what's happening next. And if there's a big gaffe, well, so, there is one, and you muddle the way through it. And yes, we've had a few bloopers going on the live shows and the morning television and so on as well. But you just carry on with it, and that's it.
Well, Simon, I know of one platform where they'd really like you to do a cooking show. I can't think of any names specifically, but I'm not going to stop asking.
This wouldn't be something to do with United Kitchens for any chance, would it?
It could be a whole different name. You could do anything you want. You have that. Yes.
Simon the chef.
Oh, here we go again. Get the white sand. And, yeah.
So I'll bother you about that later. Diane, what was the first show that you were on here? Do you remember?
For you?
Yes.
Yes. And it was Rapping with Dr. JACALYN. And we talked about one of my first children's books.
Okay. That was the platform, though. What was the show?
It was Rapping with Dr. JACALYN.
Okay.
So I guess you were interviewing authors at the time, and I filled in for someone who couldn't make it. Something came up, and it was really just serendipity that we even met. So I feel very blessed.
That's true. I remember exactly how we met. I don't remember the show, though. So for all of you who don't know, just very quickly, then we'll go into what's going on. I was with Alcini at a television station in New Jersey, and somebody had called in, an author. She had called in about her children's book, and the children's book was sitting right there. She had sent it in. And so afterwards, I contacted her about being on this, Rapping with Dr. JACALYN platform. And she said, yes. And then she couldn't make it. And I was really nervous. And I just wrote back, like, can you think of anyone who might be able to fill in for you? She said, Diann Floyd BOEHM. And ta-da, there it was. And Diann has brought so many people to this platform. I can't even tell you, so many people who are friends now. Thank you, Diann.
You're welcome. And I love our friendship too.
I do as well. Okay, let's go over to Helena to find out what in the world is going on there.
I'm going to start off with, I just want to say happy birthday to Tom Jones, who's 83 today. Happy birthday.
I love Tom Jones.
Doesn't everyone love him? And my mom does. I mean, he's still got such a good voice, so strong, which is amazing. Also, congratulations to Dr. JACALYN on your Lady Ella book. Is it listening in the BOEHM National Game Park?
Yes,
I think
exactly
it is. Book 5 Series 1.
Janetta Barry is our correspondent on this one.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's already doing incredibly well. I think
it's actually #1 in all 3 categories on Amazon.
Wow.
Thank you.
Congratulations, which is really good. But also I wanted to say happy birthday to Coco the monkey. I felt this was a bit of a synergy. So Coco's a monkey, 50, sorry, no, it's chimpanzee, actually. He was born in Dudley Zoo and lives in Whipsnade Zoo. But apparently the average age is 33 for a chimpanzee. So obviously she's doing incredibly well, but I was really hoping that maybe you could introduce Coco into your Lady Ella books. I just think it would be great to bring her over somehow.
Yeah, let's talk about that. And you're actually featured in the book as well. Tell us about your animal character.
So I am Loopy the lion, and I'm looking forward to obviously sharing that with everyone in due course.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. And Simon's also in this book as well.
Well, Isla's in this book. Isla, my golden retriever, is in the book. I'm just giving her a bit of a bark.
Well, thanks to both of you for being in the books. Oh, Ian's back. Here he is.
I'm back. As I always say to you, I have a story for every occasion. And in the late 70s, early 80s, we had a brand of tea in Britain called PGT. And PGT, their commercial were chimpanzees. And they were very, very famous chimpanzees. And run by a lady called Molly Badham, who was then really the doyenne of doing animal commercials for television. And the one thing you have to be careful with chimpanzees is as they get older, that their temperament is not as cuddly. Let's put it that way. So she used to do all these different situations with them, but they went on. I think the PGT chimps went on for about 25 years, and they became a tremendous household name in Britain. But you could also meet them at Twycross Zoo in Leicestershire, which is in the Midlands of England as well. And unfortunately, Molly died, I think, a couple of years ago. But one of the best things, each 2 or 3 times a year, I used to go to Molly, and we would create something new with the baby chimps as well. And they were fabulous. So it is. I have many happy memories of working with the chimpanzees.
Wow, pretty cool.
That's so
amazing.
lovely.
The closest I had to working with a chimpanzee was watching Tarzan on Saturday mornings.
Oh,
sorry, I had to throw that out there.
That's so funny. Do you know I think the oldest living chimpanzee lived into the late 70s, and that was she was called Little Mama somewhere in Florida. Just a bit of useless information. There you go. But it's amazing when you think the average age is 30, early 30s, late 70s. Wow.
I'd like to know what they were feeding that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. No, I mean, you know what they say, you should never do anything in television with children and with animals. And my experience was actually on this morning program with an alpaca, which turned out to be thoroughly incontinent and not terribly friendly. But I remember the time the presenter of that particular section on the show was saying, these alpacas, when they're happy, they've got a very happy smile on their face, and they hum a little song. Well, I was in the kitchen part of the show, and I saw on my monitor in front of me this alpaca with a very smiley face and so on, very friendly looking thing. And so I just went along and so on, because apparently alpacas give this happy little hum. I didn't realize at the time my mic was actually live at the time. I was running over saying, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. So I had to keep up this fun. And all the rest of the studio was, of course, going into absolute dissolved fits of laughter and so on. And of course, this alpaca was so incontinent, and there was somebody running around with a bucket and a shovel and a mop. This thing, I mean, this was actually my first show on This Morning as well, and I thought, well, am I ever going to get asked back to appear on this show ever again? But oddly enough, no, I was back there the next morning, so it wasn't too bad. But yes, it was a slightly sort of worrying time, and you really do get sort of stuck for words sometimes, and that was one of them.
Well, we've talked about this before, but I know most people think it's very glamorous to be on television. You just show up with a nice outfit on and say a few witty things, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and you just gave us a real eye opener.
Check your
Yeah.
mic.
It's in the times you want the world to swallow you up.
Diane and I were on a show, and we both thought the show had ended, but the producer didn't end the show, and so everything we were saying is still out there.
Oh gosh.
We were talking for like 15 minutes, weren't we, Diane?
Yeah, I think so. Thank goodness it was all clean.
You're like, this is live, isn't it? Like, oh my gosh, we're still in the air. So.
Oh, that's funny. So what else is going on in
So, well, it's a very, very busy time. It's a very busy royal time, should we say. So, as everyone is aware, we have Prince Harry is in court at the moment. And he is the first British royal in 130 years to give evidence in court, and it's the High Court, so it's something pretty amazing. Mind you, having said that, I do know that Princess Anne was in court something like 10 years ago, but that was to do with her dog, so slightly different. And so he didn't turn up to the first day. Apparently, he was still celebrating his child's birthday, but he was in court yesterday, and he's in court still, I think, today. And this is giving evidence, I think, against the Mirror Group. And it's been fascinating, I have to say, and we can sort of have a little chat about it in a minute. But I think it's interesting really to see that he's sort of in breach of the convention that the royals stay out of party politics and things like that, because he's insisting that the government and our British press have got blood on their hands and they're completely at rock bottom. Ministers sort of work with the press to defend vested interests in return for sort of good coverage. And a lot of what he's doing, he says, is he's had therapy and he now wants to expose the wrongdoing, and he wants to hold those that have done wrong accountable. So I personally feel very sorry for some of the things that he's talking about, because it's a lot of emotional baggage. But at the same time, I also feel that if you've been through therapy, to want to hold those responsible, there's an imbalance there. It suggests that whoever helped him on a therapy route hasn't done a hugely great job, I would say, because really, once you've been through therapy, it should almost create forgiveness, a sense of peace. And I think at the moment, Harry really is on this journey, and it's revengeful. And I feel sorry for him, because this is not a good way to be feeling the whole time when you're sort of going through this lens of anger, as I see it. And from what I can see and from what I've heard, I've not been there. It's been very much he's very emotional and giving his side of events that happened from a young age, and talks about how the press did him wrong and made him, so upset with the headlines and various things. So it wasn't very nice, but he's in court, and there's not very much fact that's coming out. He's just stating things and there's no evidence. It's just feeling. So it does feel a little bit of a therapy session. I don't know. It'd be interesting to hear what people feel. I'm slightly torn, because I think, just to end on one matter, there are certain things that do need to change slightly. I mean, we've had some horrible situations, just out of name out of whatever. There's a young lady called Caroline Flack who took her life not so long ago, a few years ago now. And that was because she was hounded by the press. So there are certain things that possibly do need changing, that need to be changed through law, not through someone sort of stating it should be changed. So I'm slightly skewed with it. I do feel very sorry for how he feels and what he's been through and his paranoia, as he stressed. But I do feel to take up the High Court for 7 days when you were just really stating that you think certain things and you don't have evidence is a bit much. So that's what's going on in the courts, and we've got it for a few more days.
Thanks for sharing that, Helena. Anybody have any thoughts? Ian, it looks like you're deep in quandary there.
You see that knowing what I do know about the other side of the royal, or not the royal family, but of national newspapers, I mean, one thing comes to my mind straight away that, you know, I can see certainly the types of things that he was concerned about and he's talking about, and I've only heard it briefly. I haven't really been following it too much, but what I've been hearing. Basically, in newspapers in Britain, what we call a dirty tricks department really started up in newspapers in Britain in the mid-70s. Everybody was chasing everybody else on readership because readership was going down. And so they thought the more salacious stories coming out might save newspapers, might create readership. And one of the things that I remember at that time, and this was a national newspaper deciding to do this as well, is at one stage they thought that Prince Andrew had a terrible disease. I won't say the disease, but they thought he had a terrible disease. And so they were watching to see whether or not he would lose weight because of this debilitating disease that they thought he had. And so they assigned photographers for 9 months. And all the photographers had to do was each time Andrew was in public, they had to get a side-on shot of Andrew. And basically what they were doing, they were measuring the waist of Andrew through that photograph to see whether his waist was going down, whether he was losing weight or not. And at times, for me, the types of dirty tricks that were going on really started off in a newspaper that I used to work for. Very likely I had to get involved because I was a staff journalist, a staff photographer at that time. But very quickly that they left that paper because I think the paper decided this wasn't the way to go in any form of journalism. But it spread. And so when I look at things like hacking and everything that's going on in newspapers as well, I think, whether or not there's proof is debatable. But whether there is truth, I think is 100%. The feeling is that a lot of celebrities, royal family, Diana, all sorts of people, I believe, allegedly, well, if they weren't being hacked, for example, why did journalists go to jail? Why did newspapers? It's reckoned that newspapers in Britain have paid out over 100 million to really quieten down celebrities and storylines that they got from dubious sources. And what they would do sometimes is that they wouldn't have the journalists themselves doing it, but they would have private detective agencies doing these things as well. And, for me, when I used to see these things, and I also used to see the types of stories that couldn't get in the paper, because these types of stories were filling up the pages as well. And everybody used to say, well, bad news sells. I don't believe this. I've never believed that bad news sells, because at the end of the day, if bad news sold, then newspapers would still have the same type of circulations that they had when I first moved into Fleet Street in 1974. So the average broadsheet, the large style newspaper, the more serious newspapers, they would have 1 or 2 million audience a day, readership a day. Tabloids, the smaller newspapers, the more sort of high-end red newspapers would have 4 to 5 million each. Even newspapers, I think now are probably 1/10 of that readership that they were before. So when I look at do I believe Harry in that he may not be able to prove it, but do I believe it happened? Yes, I do.
Yeah, I mean, Harry has been certainly put through the mill yesterday. Missing the first day in court was a big no-no as far as the judge is concerned. So he was going to get a rough ride straight away. And apparently, I think the Mirror Group's lawyer or King's Counsel has got all the charisma of a bulldog chewing a wasp. And when he really let rip into Harry, I think he's done some very prying questions, and I think Harry's got quite rattled with it, and he's come up with I think answers which might even have surprised Harry himself. He's broken a couple of the cardinal rules, and one namely that royals don't get involved in the political world, and his comments about the government reaching rock bottom, I think, is going to rattle some serious cages in high places. So he's been accused of on going back on what he'd said, of contradicting himself as well right through the action. So I don't think he's done himself any great favors taking on this action and making it as public as it's been. I think it could have been dealt with in a much more civilized and quieter manner before taking the necessity of having to go to court at all.
I don't know. Do you know, the way I look about life is things like paparazzi, things like dirty tricks divisions of newspapers killed the industry I loved. And it's probably one of the reasons why I moved from newspapers to television, where at least you have to be factual. When you're appearing live on screen, it's a lot more focused on trying to tell the truth as well. And when I look at newspapers today again, I remember when paparazzi first came in, and Helena's had occasions when we used to do photographs together, where paparazzi have almost hit her and pushed her out of the way. That they are a breed to themselves, and I've always considered them the vultures of any media group. And I actually, the group that Harry has taken to court at the moment, I actually worked for. I worked for the Mirror Group newspapers, MGN, and I never saw that happening in my time there. But I think as circulations plummeted, and as they tried to sort of get anything at all, then it became a no holds barred situation. And for me, gossip and this type of thing, okay, I think sometimes we fall into the world of talking about the royal family, and there's gossip issues and so forth, and it's interesting to a point. But when it becomes too malicious, as I think it came with Harry and Meghan especially, when it became too malicious, I think really the media in this country has overstepped the mark totally.
So I have a question for what you just shared. Let me bring Helena back. So to your point, and I know most of us have heard the expression bad news sells newspapers. Has there been any research done about putting all positive things out and seeing how many, how the circulation is, what the numbers are versus bad news? Because I find when I read the papers online, I don't actually get the papers, but a lot of it is very bad news. And I just go next page. Is there anything positive this year?
You see, I think, with circulations, if bad news sold, then circulations would remain, the same as they were 30, 40 years ago when I first started on national newspapers. They haven't. There are 10% of what they used to be. Now, part of that is because young people don't read newspapers anymore. So newspaper sales have plummeted anyway. More and more newspapers, it costs so much to print a newspaper, to distribute it. They're more going online now anyway. And where there is an upturn is with areas like the Daily Mail run their own, which is one of our big tabloid, but middle of the road tabloid that I used to work for, the Daily Mail. They've virtually come away from print now, but their online newspaper site, I think it's the largest online newspaper site in the world now. And so, but when we look at things, when I look at things, media is changing so quickly, and what where we are today. In 2 years, 5 years' time, may be totally different again on the delivery of things. And I think audiences now are becoming much more segmented than they were before. So peer groups like 18 to 30, which is where the advertisers really want to hit, they're really watching anything these days, if they're watching anything at all, on their phones. They're not watching, television screens or anything like that. And so things like fast channels, are one of the new aspirations of where to sort of look at. But I think, when it comes to proof, I think the proof is just very simply, people have stopped buying newspapers. And a lot of it is, I think, it's something I've said forever. If in reality, we're putting something of print on a breakfast table, and it's day after day, week after week, year after year, and it's negative, who wants to read that?
Good point. That's why I take nice news.
Also, I mean, there is an area where the sale of newspapers is actually quite stable, and that's in local newspapers. I mean, we have up here, we've got several local papers, the Open Times, your Garter Advertiser, etc., and those have got a steady, a steady readership and a steady circulation. But with the national papers, you're getting your hands covered in newsprint and it's something else to fold under the arm and so on. You can have half a dozen newspapers. Oh, there's Isla again. Half a dozen newspapers in your pocket. So that's where the circulation's going. I don't think it's just a story of, bad news, good news. It's the circulation is evolving into an online circulation instead. And I think if you looked at the circulation figures of the Mail or the Mirror or the Scotsman or the Times, and looked at their online circulation and then offset that against their physical circulation, I think you might find them probably much the same as they were before. And it was just all done in newsprint.
Excellent points. I have some news hot off the press. Can you see it? We just crossed over 100,000 views in the last 20 weeks.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yay.
Thank you.
I've just to answer Simon's point, I take on board what he's saying, but the reality is that online these days is global. It's not UK. So yes, there may be a global audience looking at newspapers across the world, but I don't think it's a UK audience at all.
Yeah, but I mean, when I lived in South Africa for 5 years, I could pick up a British daily newspaper. Okay, it was the next day, but yeah, I could actually pick up physically the Mail, or the Times or whatever in South Africa, and in Europe it's the same as well. They've got all the English written newspapers. You can get New York Times in the middle of the Algarve, or you can get the New York Times in the African bush. So they, and I think and that's the physical copy rather than just the online copy. So they're still getting around. But the point, of course, is that online is much easier. So you probably get more readership now going into other countries online rather than the physical copy.
Yeah.
I think just to tying in with Prince Harry again, I think a lot of what he's talking about is, it's past. It's so past. It's sort of so old news, and he's talking about it very much in the present. And lots of things have actually changed from years and years ago. And I think that's the difference. I feel it's quite cathartic for Prince Harry to be speaking about it in court. But, laws have come in, and it has to be a legal thing, I think, to get certain things to change. I mean, we don't see now, as we would have done years ago, pictures of the young children in their playgrounds. I don't know whether it would be Prince George or whatever. We don't have that now. That's all very past, but he's still, I think, really in the present. And I think for his own sake, he needs to forgive. There needs to be a peace in his life so that he can enjoy his life. Because at the moment, everything that he seems to be doing, it's like a dog with a bone. And it still is, to me, trauma. I really believe it. So there we go. And as we're in this modern world, the media has changed so much, hasn't it? And it's not just about newspapers now. 24/7 rolling whatever news, and I there is an interest. I mean, I think people are quite fickle, and as much as I want positive news, and I think all of us, I mean, for years now, have been promoting that, but we're quite fickle as humans, and people do like to hear bad news. People can't put it down. It's almost like an obsession. So it's a real tricky one. I do think things have to be completely go through the law and have these laws passed. And obviously, if you do something and it's wrong, well, you suffer the consequences, and that's the way forward.
Those are really good points. Over here, I was watching the news about Prince Harry and so forth, and what they kept saying is, Helena, what you really stated was that he's stating opinions, but he needs to have proof that what he's saying is actually happening. So over here in the news, they were saying that he has a uphill battle. So I thought I'd just share that with you.
Yeah, it's I mean, for me, and I've gone on record several times that I was part of several people to support William when he asked editors not to buy photographs of the royal children, especially when they were candid shots, being taken in public places. For me, there's never been strong enough laws, and I'm all for freedom of the press, because I don't want to see a Chinese type of situation where there's no freedom, or Russia where there's no freedom of the press at all. But I think again, there came a time when I believe there were ethics. I hope there were ethics when I first started in newspapers. They're not there today, I don't think, at all. And there's a laissez-faire, any attitude, providing it gets build circulation, goes these days. And so newspapers used to, yes, I mean, they would follow the values of the press barons. But I think at the same time, I think, we've got a modern newspaper press now that is not as, first of all, as professional, and is certainly now much more biased than even I saw when I first came in the 1970s.
This has been a great conversation. Thank you, everyone. We are sadly out of time. So if we can just go around as we always do and share something inspirational or something we want people to know. We'll start off with Diann.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, I just hope people find joy in their life. I always like to say, and don't always believe what you read in the newspaper.
Thanks, Diann. Excellent. Okay, let's go over to Simon.
Well, you know me, every week I come up with another pearl of wisdom. And this week I'm going back to an old favorite because I see this recurring time and time again. And basically, the sky is not the limit when there's footprints on the moon. And always remember that you're unique, just like everybody else.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much, Helena.
I just want to just end on a different note, which again is a bit of news in itself, just to say that Prince William has officially partnered with YouTube to create content for the Earthshot Prize, which is, I think, fabulous. And as we know, it's a bid to, to find extraordinary people to battle all the environmental challenges that we have in the world, and sustainability matters. So it's going to be a great partnership because they're going to build wonderful, positive information for everyone to see. And I think for the younger community, it would be really, really good. So we're going to have a fantastic sustainability community that everyone can enjoy and work towards. So I think that's good news.
Absolutely. In fact, it's an incredible initiative, and it's always been, that clip that you had was always my favorite clip. I hated to delete it because it's not current anymore, but just everything that we saw, all the visuals and David's commentary was phenomenal. How about you, Ian, to close us out?
To close you out, 100,000 views. Well done, you. And well done, all of us. Well done, everyone who's supported probably one of the best channels to work with. Helen and I'm sure Simon feels the same, on this side of the pond, more than anything, to actually sort of be part of. Because I think what USA Global TV does now, it analyzes, it's very intelligent in its television style, and it's watchable. And you know, I seem to feel that anybody can watch one of your shows and gain something from it. So well done, you, JACALYN.
Thank you very much. And I'm proud to say that we had our first show in another language. Roland Friedel led a show with the doctor. It was completely in German. So
wow,
we're growing and expanding. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for all of your mentoring, your coaching, your availability, and for leading with your heart and for being my friend. I really do appreciate you all.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for a great show.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. We'll be coming back with a brand new show with Ann Scotland. It's called Global Socialpreneurs. Let's just... We don't want to show. Okay, there you go.